All right. I believe we are live right now. Welcome, those of you. I don't think anyone's live with us now, but on the playback, episode 5 of The Last of Us. We just watched it. We have not talked about it. This is our reaction to this episode. And a preface, this one had a lot that was in the game. A lot. So there was many scenes that were pulled from the game. Probably the episode that had the most scenes from the game, and that includes the ending, which I don't think there's any way we can, not start with that. Just wow. I think it did what it was trying to do more effectively than the game. And in the game, for a lot of people in the game, this scene is the roughest. For a lot of people, I think it's even rougher than Joel's daughter's death. And I think that this challenges that. I think it does. I was very blown away and I'm speechless of sorts, and it's sad, very sad. Nick
By any
or
chance,
Brian?
Tyler, do you think that you can explain to us, what the game was like in this scene versus the show? Because I haven't gotten that far to the game yet. I didn't expect this to be part of it.
So very similar. The main, the way that it plays out in the game. Well, for one, Sam is not. He's deaf in this, right? Deaf and mute, I suppose, right? Technically, would that mean he's both? He can't hear and he can't speak.
I mean, he was able to speak, but when you're deaf, it's a struggle.
Right. He did say, right. He did speak a little bit, but
yeah.
He's not deaf in the game, and the scene plays out almost the same with him and Ellie kind of playing around and communicate rather than writing back and forth. They're talking, and that dialogue that they're writing, they're speaking to each other. And Ellie says, we'll see you in the morning, and she leaves the room. Sam does not reveal that he is bitten to Ellie. So Ellie leaves the room. The camera is on Sam. He's looking out the window, and he looks down and he pulls up his pant leg. You see he's bit, and the screen goes to black. So then the following scene is Joel is sleeping, no, they're all awake. Joel's making pancakes or something with Henry, and
so they're not.
Henry,
they're not at a motel. They're not at a motel. They found some sort of house. That's a slight difference there.
Yeah, slight difference. I don't think they were at a motel. No, I don't think they were. I think they were just in they're staying in some house in some room. I think so. Could be wrong on that. Yeah, and then Henry's like, "Oh, it's not like the kid to be my little brother to sleep in. Like, Ellie, why don't you go check on him?" So she goes to check on him, and he's standing there, kind of similarly, like in this, he was sitting on a bed. In the game, he's standing up, and she's like, "Sam," and you hear him kind of like his gurgling, and then that plays out the same with him running in. Joel grabs the gun. They both have a gun. Joel grabs his and he points it at Sam, and then Henry shoots at Joel's feet, points it at Joel, and Joel's like, "I'm not putting this down." And he's like, I can't do that. And then you hear a gunshot, and it's Henry had shot. It was in the game. I think it's a little more of a mystery as far as that, because it kind of doesn't show you who shot the gun. You're not sure who shot what. This was very clear what happened, but that plays out the same with Henry shooting Sam and freaking out and then killing himself. And it could not have been done better. I mean, this was almost too real. It was almost too good. But I mean, I've said enough, just to recap on that. What do your reactions to it?
Well, I'm still sad. I mean, I think
it's a given.
I think what worked so well about the scene is the sheer amount of time that and I'm sure the game is similar, the sheer amount of time that we get to spend with Henry and Sam. And we have a flashback sequence with them. We're establishing their relationship. We're establishing this big brother, little brother dynamic. He's looking out for his little brother. We get the backstory with the leukemia and the medicine. And it all builds up to this moment at the end. And I gotta say, during the melee with all the infected, I figured there's no way, there's no way nobody got out of that without getting bit. And I didn't know if it was going to be Henry or Sam, but this is one of those cases where it's like, when you watch the trailers, contextual clues end up giving you certain things away. And I was like, they're not in Wyoming in the trailer. So something's going to happen. And when he revealed that he was bit on his leg, it was my heart sank. And the saddest moment of all was you kind of got a sense that Ellie knew what she was going to try was probably not going to work. It was a Hail Mary. She probably figured maybe. But really, it was more of a comfort thing. Like she was trying to do something for him to make him feel like maybe it was going to be okay. And gosh, that alone kind of ripped my heart out. The whole thing was rough.
Yeah, and I'm watching with the lady here, and one thing she pointed out, she's like, if this is you playing the video game, it felt as if there may not be the same impact, because video games can kind of create this notion of they're just backdrops, NPCs, expendable. Mm-hmm. But when we spend all this time developing with the character and they're actually tangible human beings, it has that much more of a pack punch to it. And that really hit us so hard that we had to hug each other at the end of the episode. It was just so heartbreaking. Like you guys said, like we invested so much in these characters that we pretty much knew exactly what they had to go through when they were stuck in the QZ. And I mean, it's just, I was hoping that they got out of it alive, but right then and there, like you said, when they're trapped under a car, one of them, someone had to have gotten bit. And one last thing I wanted to throw out there is there was this thing going around social media that these characters were still going to be around, that they weren't going to be killed off, that they were going to be a pivotal plot point to the next couple episodes. And that was so misleading that this made it even more devastating for us. So don't trust everything you see online, especially if the episode hasn't fully come out.
Fake news.
Fake news.
One thing I'll say about not only that ending sequence, but the whole episode really was I really enjoyed and found myself becoming attached to the relationship between Ellie and Sam. She seemed to just enjoy having another kid around, even if he was considerably younger, and she seemed to enjoy kind of the little brother, big sister dynamic they were starting to form. And in that scene with Sam when he revealed the bite, and then in the aftermath of the killing and the suicide, and laying his little notepad on his grave, I gotta say, so far Pedro Pascal has been the star of the show for me. He's had the best performance, but in those moments, Bella Ramsey was elevated for me from kind of tier below to almost neck and neck. I was very compelled by her performance in those scenes, and she's right there with Pedro Pascal for me right now. That was excellent.
This was her best episode. I was thinking that actually, and well before that, I was thinking that, I'm not sure when it was. There was some point during the episode where I was like, wow, this is her best episode. Like her acting is just really on par. Like her range is incredible. She does the comedy bits, and I thought she was funny in this episode. She's always been kind of funny, but her lines I thought were better. Her delivery was better. And then of course, just like her acting at the end with, Sam, it was really, really good. It's hard not to talk about it because it was just so impactful, and there's so much else that happened in this episode that we obviously are gonna have to pull ourselves away from and try to talk about that stuff. So why don't we, try to go through it a little bit from the beginning, which I want to once again give just praise to the show for doing something that just so few other shows I feel do, and that is you're giving us this flashback episode for Henry and Sam, and I'm thinking as the viewer, all right, this is the Henry and the Sam episode. It's going to be most of the episode. Then maybe the last 5 to 10 minutes we'll catch back up with Joel and Ellie, a little bit like the Bill episode. And that was not the case. That was not the case at all. They gave us Henry and Sam for like 10, 15 minutes, which was perfect. It was like the perfect amount of little bit. And we continued to kind of get their backstory through their conversations with Joel. And I even checked the time. I was like, this is awesome. We have 50 minutes left when they went and met with Joel. Whereas so many shows, they would have a cliffhanger like that, like we had last week. They would do how they got to that point, and then you have to wait the next week for the next, like, okay, then we really see it. Like, I mean, so many shows do that. So it was just awesome that like they kind of do this kind of unconventional type storytelling a bit, where it's just not, this is not what I expected. So I really liked that structure. But let's jump to one character, because we had Nick and I had a problem, and a lot of people I saw with honestly, I literally want to keep calling her Karen. That's not her name. I don't know why I want to keep calling her that.
Kathleen, right? It's Kathleen.
Kathleen. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm
Kathy.
All right. Can I start with this? Because I'm
Please
sure
do.
I'll probably represent a lot of our thoughts on it. Listen, miscast. And I said it last week, and I wanted to withhold judgment until this week to see if anything that went on would change my mind. And not really. I think the closest the episode came was that the sequence right in the lead up to the big action set piece where she was kind of being really harsh and cold, the way she talked about Sam, and it was his fate to die and some of that stuff. And I was kind of seeing like, okay, I kind of get why, she's like, well, that's strong. I was starting to see why maybe she was in the position that she was in. She was this cold, calculated woman. And I was like, okay. But at the end of the day, she dies, and it all ended up kind of feeling like it went nowhere. I kind of felt like I feel like this is the first and only mistake the show has made. I feel like they had this obstacle in Kansas City, which was this group of rebels. I don't know what to call them. And they wanted to expand on them a bit beyond them just being faceless enemies.
Which I have to say real quick, in the game, that's what they are. These enemies, this group, there's not a single character amongst them. So they did try. They
fleshed it out.
Yeah. But I think you could have accomplished that by way of Henry. You could have explained some of the context of what's going on in Kansas City and given us that characterization of this group through the flashback with Henry and some of Henry's description of what's going on. And in fact, if we had cut out the Kathleen character, or at least reduced her, we could have spent more time with Henry and Sam and maybe learned even more through his eyes, maybe had a longer flashback sequence. I don't know. I don't know what the perfect way to do it is. But at the end of the day, this Kathleen character just kind of felt like the stuff people have been joking about her feeling, like a substitute teacher, somebody's mom. Like, what is it exactly about this person that made her someone that a group of violent, rebellious mercenaries would want to follow? There's a moment where they talk about her brother, and the one other character says, hey, your brother was great, but you're the one who made a difference. You're the one who changed things. And it was kind of just like, okay, show, why? And we never really get an explanation. And I'm kind of fine with it, because it's just like, whatever, we're past that point now. It's over. But I definitely think there were some spans of time that could have been better spent elsewhere. Because at the end of the day, this character was not believable as someone who would lead a group of violent rebels. That's my take.
Yeah, she kind of came off as this character you just want to see die, and that's it. Like, even that scene with her in the room talking about her brother, no empathy at all. I mean, she had the chance to, but she came right back around and was like, I just want to kill him, and that's it. And everyone likes a good revenge story, but there's not enough context for us to really care, to the point where the clicker behind her, I was pumped. I'm like, let's go, come on. That was the only purpose I've seen with her for these 2 episodes. Like, do we really need her to be just this person to root for to die? I just didn't like that part of it, that component. And maybe an extra episode or so, maybe in the QZ in Kansas City would have been nice. But I get the direction, and I respect the way they went. I have really no issue. I mean, it's a show about Ellie and Joel. So,
Well, Tyler, did you change your mind at all, or no?
I think I fall pretty closely to the both of you. I think no, I didn't really change my mind. The show did accomplish me hating this character. Like I like
yeah, right.
second scene that she was in, I was like, okay, I see what they want. They want us to hate this character. They want us to hate this character. But this is the problem. And, Nick, you mentioned that it's whatever. It doesn't matter. This character's not really part of the grand scheme of things. That's fine. TV shows do that all the time. But like, if you're going to do that, you need to make this character memorable. You need to make them interesting. They certainly should be using expressions like, it's on my mind that right now because I just saw the Super Bowl commercial for it. Like Breaking Bad, Tuco is a character that's kind of just a drop in the bucket, right? He's very memorable, right? Like make this character like fun at least, like fun to watch, interesting to watch. She tried to go for I think this like psychologically smart, like quiet kind of presence, and it didn't work. It was the only thing that didn't work because the writing was good. I understood like what she was doing. The script was there. It was perfect for like her motivation because I was thinking like I'm never gonna believe what she's doing. I need Henry. I'm thinking this is so stupid. But then when she explained it, I'm like, okay, I got you a little bit. I see what you're doing, but I'm glad that we're done with her. And I was just waiting for Joel to shoot her. I was waiting for it. He never
Why
did.
didn't he? He could have easily done that. All the shit that she put them through. Why not cap her off first and then deal with the clickers? Seriously.
I don't think he necessarily knew who she was. I mean, they never actually interacted.
No, but she looked like she was
she's after them.
Yeah, she was after him. So I kind of was expecting him to do that. But anyway, we'll rewind it a little bit to, I mean, they had their whole, how Henry and Sam met up, of course, with Joel. Man, that interaction, were you guys, I laughed out loud when Joel, and he was like, all right, I'm not going to shoot you. He's like, so that's kind of what happens here, right? Like, you'll trust us. And he's just like, yeah, sure. The way he said it, I laughed. It was just hilarious. It's just like, Joel.
Just
why you gotta
say
an
asshole
like
voice.
Yeah.
It's, and that's something I'll give this episode too. It was a lot of believable interactions. I mean, the stuttering, I don't know if this is the way it's supposed to go. Him even trying to run when the old man was shooting them with the sniper from the house, and he tried to take off with Sam. He's like, wait, no, never mind. I'm going to go back. Okay, what do we do? Let's talk to an experienced person. Like it was very believable. I do appreciate that detail.
Him even saying like, he's like, I'm going to try to get into the house. And she's like, you'll get shot. And he's like, it's dark out and he's got a shit aim. He's not going to hit me. And it just felt like any guy would say that. Very believable dialogue. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, Brian. I think a lesser show with the Henry character would have either made him like another badass or they would have made him the comic relief. And in the end, he's somewhere in the middle. He's just a guy who's just doing what he can to protect his brother. And so in that moment where they sneak up on Joel and they've got him at gunpoint, yeah, a real dude would probably kind of not know what to do. And he's just like reenacting something he's seen in a movie. Like that's how it felt. And it made the character endearing. I mean, because of that scene alone, I was like, I kind of like this guy. Like he's just doing his best, and he seems like a pretty good dude in a tough situation. But yeah, all around, consistently, like characters are making reasonable, smart choices that you can buy into, and that's what makes a show like this work.
Yeah, and Henry had just so many layers to him. Like my God, like there was moments, where you're liking him in the beginning. And then when you kind of find out that he was, selling out people to Fedra, like that was probably the lowest moment when we learned about him. I was like, like okay, maybe I don't like him because I don't like that. But then when they started to explain why, and it kind of, I was even thinking about that prior, thinking, well, now he's doing it to survive. He's a survivor, right? I mean, who says he's any better than what I would do in that situation? I mean, maybe we know how hard it is. And then of course, when they kind of give that reasoning, which still like, man, it was tough. It wasn't just, I got this medicine to save, my little brother. It's like, no, I had to give up like a good guy, a really good guy. And it's just a very simple little storytelling like beat there that was really effective. It paints him not in this, oh, he saved his little brother, but a little gray area. Some may agree with that, some may not. I think it's perfectly in that gray where it's not right, but you understand why he did it.
Well, in a world like this, you're having to probably make those types of choices all the time. You're having to decide. It's like the classic question, like, would you steal bread to feed your family?
Yeah.
Would you turn over this person that you respect to save your brother? That's the question that he was asked, and he saved his brother, and 80% of people would probably have done the same. So in many ways, he was a relatable character, and that's what made it so much sadder when he died, frankly.
Yeah. Do you guys think there was any chance of either of them or both of them like living on? Like the thing is for me too, like once, oh man, like I knew once they were approaching that house, that building, I just knew. I was like, fuck, it's happening this episode. Because I was at least hoping that we would get like another episode with them. Like, I was at least and I thought that. I'm like, oh, like, well, that death scene won't happen till like episode 6. But once I realized how much time we had left, I'm like, oh no, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen here. No. Oh God.
I was not expecting the resistance to show up, that the guy was just a decoy or a watch of some sort. And maybe that's a little naive of me because they were outside of Kansas City at that point, and we don't have a proper conclusion with Kathleen in the group. So no, I really wasn't expecting it, to be completely honest.
I was with you, Tyler. I thought maybe we'd get a little more time with them, but again, I from the trailers I knew that they weren't going to be in the Wyoming episodes, so I figured there was a chance that one or both of them would get bit. I figured there's a chance they might make their own way somewhere else. I had no idea. I didn't play the game, of course, but once that big fight happened, I was like, somebody got bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Thinking of episode 2 when they got into the fight at the museum, and literally Ellie and Tess both got bit.
Right.
So yeah, the odds were not in their favor.
I don't know if Craig Mazin does this, if he's like a fan of maybe other video games or apocalyptic survival situations like zombies, but when they ended up at the motel, that kind of reminded me of The Walking Dead Telltales. It just had this similar kind of feel and vibe to it. Even when they went up in the attic, that was another scene that I just thought of immediately of Walking Dead. So there's a lot of correlations to other shows that kind of make me more engaged with it. It's like, hey, it may be a trope, but it's still kind of fun to see how they put their own take or spin on it. Have you guys seen any other, like, I don't know, like maybe little Easter eggs from other shows, video games that kind of remind you of like another apocalyptic situation like this?
I guess this fits, but I mean, you definitely feel the drippings of Craig Mazin throughout the show, and it feels awfully similar to Chernobyl, in the way that it's shot and the way that it's so flippin' dark.
The filter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the color scheming and the lighting, it definitely feels visually similar to Chernobyl. And I think I said this in one of our earlier videos, Tyler, that even some of the makeup and prosthetic design on the infected reminds me of some of the stuff that we see in Chernobyl after people have been exposed to radiation. So I would imagine there's quite a few carryovers in terms of the creative team. So I don't know if Chernobyl's technically a post-apocalyptic show, but
Could have been.
It almost was.
Yeah.
Has that feel for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's they pulled just this one really. There's just so much that are like when they're going through the like sewers a little bit and seeing that like, oh, like a kind of a little mini civilization lived down here. They had a daycare. Like those drawings even were just exactly from the game. And I kind of was hoping they'd put the mole man in there, which maybe it wouldn't translate or made much sense. But in the game, when you first get down there, you see a note and you like Joel realizes like there's somebody living down here. And it's like a guy living down here. Maybe they'll cover this. This isn't like a big thing, so if they do cover it, don't worry. It's not like a spoiler. It's just like a cool thing. But essentially, like you're as the player, you're going through these sewers, you're seeing things, and you know someone's like down here, so you're kind of feeling uneasy as the player. And the guy keeps signing his name like Mole Man or something like that, Mr. M. And it turns after you're going through it for 5, 6, 7 minutes. Turns out he's not there anymore. He died or whatever. So it kind of plays with your mind a little bit, like most games. Like, oh, we're gonna fight this little boss here, and it's like no. Then you find him and he's dead. But they didn't seem to do that. But maybe they'll do that a different section. But that was pulled right from it. When they're going towards the tower with the guy with the gun, dude, I felt like I was playing the game in a way because that was exact. And you go through the house, you go up there, you kill him, you grab the sniper, the infected come, you got to shoot. Like that was all, dude. That was all pulled. Like it was just so. And of course, the ending with Henry and Sam was pulled as well. But man, I didn't expect just so much to be pulled from the game with this one. But I'll tell you what, the scene of the infected like coming out and that whole battle sequence, I don't know about you, Nick, but it reminded me of Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, hard home vibes, definitely.
Yeah, the way it was shot and everything, I was like, damn, this is so just like amazing TV. Like TV doesn't do this very often.
Here's the moment where I knew, first of all, I knew shit was about to go down, but second of all, I knew we were about to get some legendary stuff. Was when Joel, he begs the old man, don't try to shoot me, takes him out, and then he hears the walkie-talkie, and it's Kathleen, and she's like,
that was great.
I'm there, we're coming, and I just got the chills. I was like, oh man, it's about to go down. And when they get there, yeah, there's some dialogue exchanged, but then that truck starts sinking into some kind of a chasm or a pit, and I just knew, like, here they come. Like, this is going to be, apparently it was somewhat true that Fedra was able to lock these guys underground, and they're about to get out. And yeah, when they stormed out of the hole and ran at all the guards, they started shooting. It definitely reminded me of Hard Home in Game of Thrones, which is obviously a great compliment because that's one of the all-time great TV episodes. So the whole action scene was really well done. It was really gripping.
So what was that special infected? What's the deal with that?
So the big one?
Yeah, the big one. The big rock character.
A lot of people, I mean, I guess this thing was, Nick, you mentioned it was in the trailers. Well, before the trailers, many people, including myself, I didn't think they'd include that. It just felt like the tone they were going with this, it kind of felt like maybe they'll just do the regular infected and clickers. Of course, they were going to do clickers. They're too iconic. But I just thought like, this is going to be kind of more grounded. That's all these different enemy types. I'm not going to include them all in the show. The fact that they're including this thing, I think there's other ones too. There's a few other ones. I'm hoping we get some others. I mean, I can name drop it, I suppose. There's hunters. There's another type. We haven't seen the hunters yet. I think they're going to do hunters as well. I think we're going to get hunters. But the bloater, yeah, there's not too many of them. I think they'll probably get into the lore of it because there's not one. I don't think there's usually one during this section in the game, but there's a very pivotal scene with one. So we're going to see it again for sure. And it might be the same one because there's not many of them because it's basically, this one is like lived for 20 years. Like it's like 15, like a really, really long time that this one has just gotten bigger and just grown more, like the spores.
Is the name Bloater to do with the fact that they've like become bloated? Is that why they're so large?
With the infection?
Yeah, more or less that. And like in the games, they like throw out like these, I don't know if they'll do it in a show.
Vial of some sort.
Like bombs that like spores come out and everything. Like, but I think it's their appearance. I think mainly because like, yeah, their appearance.
When I saw it in the trailer, I thought it was, I think we talked about this. It was like, is that like a bear? Like, is that an animal?
Yeah, what is it?
But when we do see it like with another like normal sized infected to provide like a sense of scale, it's actually not that big. It's just it's like 30%, 40% bigger. Which, it could have even just been a really big dude who became a infected creature, and that's why he's bigger. He was bigger to begin with. I don't know, but it makes sense to me that even in the world of the show, it makes sense that you would end up with like these different types or classes, if you will, of infected, because they're probably going to adapt to their environment, right? So if they're in a certain environment where they're required to be faster, or need to be able to see as opposed to not see, if they're living in
The
underground
bat
or something.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it makes sense
Yeah.
that there would be some differences. They would have to evolve or adapt with their environment. So I don't think
Yeah,
that's too video gamey.
I'm fine if they change them. They may have an explanation for it. They may not. I don't think they need to, but I'm fine if they change it, because all the changes they've made, I've been really on board with so far. But even the sounds it was making, I mean, they just pulled the sounds from the game. It's the same exact sounds. So that was really cool. Like, it was just making me get the chills, like hearing it. And even the way it killed the one guy, like, that's actually, fun fact, that's how, if you're playing the game and you let that thing get near you, it's instant death. And that thing grabs Joel and just rips his head apart. That's your game over screen. So he basically did. That was like a little, nod to, of course, guys that played the game, did that to that dude.
Well, I just thought it was awesome.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad they don't spare the gore. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a fairly grisly show, but it's not for shock factor like The Walking Dead. You just get enough as a spice, just a little bit here and
it's
there.
so
You see
different.
see the decapitation, but not up close. So I respect that choice.
Well, I'll tell you this: as big and creepy as the bloater was, I think the infected that we saw in this episode that was the creepiest might have been the one that was in the car with Ellie. That thing was like a little gymnast.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like doing like a backflip or a somersault or something. And yeah,
That thing creeped me out, and it looked like it was like a kid. Like, it looked like
yeah, right.
got infected, and that kind of added another layer of creep factor to it. But that little moment with that one in the car with Ellie was pretty effective. Meanwhile, Joel is just death from above with this rifle. That whole sequence was awesome. I'm gonna have to watch it again. It was really cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was great. And there were a lot of clickers. Like, I'm glad, like, I knew we were going to see more of them, but it seemed like most of, like, from what it looked like, a lot of those things were clickers. Like, a lot of them were, and they are more dangerous. So
I do have a question. So why didn't Sam attack Ellie when he turned? Like, I know he can't hear, right? But was he really just facing that way the entire night, or however long she fell asleep? Isn't that a little bit of a, I don't know, conundrum there? What do you guys think?
yeah, I think that you can, somewhat draw your own assumptions a little bit, but I think the answer is that he's slowly changing, right? So his consciousness and just his human self is changing over, and it's kind of gradual. It's happening quickly, but gradual. And then since this, once you become infected, you have this, animalistic, attack and invade instinct. Once he sees prey per se, it just triggers. So I think you could say, even like maybe he was just looking out the window, but maybe also like he wanted to look away from Ellie to protect her, thinking like, I don't know. There's a few ways I think you could think of it, but I think that's the answer. I think it's the answer. I don't know if you guys have any different feelings on that.
That's the lore centric answer. I think the cynical answer is that it makes for a good dramatic reveal.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, pretty much. I might be overthinking it.
That's not a critique. I mean, it was a really effective dramatic reveal. I mean, you kind of saw it coming once you knew it was bit, but there was, I mean, just like Ellie, there was a small part of you that hoped like maybe this will be like a miracle cure scene moment where like we as an audience find out, oh my gosh, like Ellie's blood does act as medicine. It does act as a vaccine or whatever you want to call it. But no, that didn't happen.
I was hoping it was a Hail Mary of she fell asleep and it was just a dream. And she's waking up like, oh my God, Sam, and he's fine. Another Walking Dead reference for all my Telltale fans out there. That was just the last bit of hope I had. It was like, oh, this is a dream. No, this shit ain't a dream. So it was heartbreaking.
I kind of want to talk about Joel in this episode. I feel like we haven't really. So I mean, Joel had a number of interesting moments with Henry, and when it came to him kind of observing Ellie and Sam, like, what did you guys think of Joel in this episode, like I feel like we experienced a little bit of growth from him. Would you guys agree with that? Like,
Right off the bat, I just want to be a little pessimistic about this. I think he was looking at Ellie and Sam in a way it's like she's wasting her time right now. Why is she getting attached to him? I get it. She probably hasn't seen a kid or interacted with a kid in months. And same for Sam, vice versa. But why are you investing into somebody that's probably going to die? It's probably not going to make it out of here. Like, I think he was viewing, the way I saw it was he was viewing the situation as she shouldn't be doing this. She's getting attached. And it's going to break her heart when something tragic happens because it's inevitable. I mean, if you look at the situation, the odds are not in their favor. So that's the way I was looking at it through his eyes.
I think you're right. I think you're right because he did have that line of dialogue, Henry, where he says like, you know, it's harder when you have somebody you have to look out for and take care of. And he was probably looking at Ellie and thinking like, don't develop that kind of bond with this kid because of the reasons that you mentioned. But I think with Joel, what we're seeing play out with each episode is there's the yin and the yang. Like there's his kind of binary way of looking at survival where you make the most sensible choice. You don't get too attached to anybody and you keep moving forward. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, he has these memories of his daughter. He's becoming more and more attached to Ellie, whether he would want to admit it or not. And I think he sees some of his daughter in Ellie. And I think he's starting to see the value more and more of these human connections. And we've had other characters speak that into him. Like one of the last things Tess says to him is, you know, save whoever you can, do whatever you can to help who you can. You know, we see Bill writing him a letter where he essentially says the same thing. Like, you know, I was wrong to approach life the way I did. You know, I found love, and that love was actually the most important thing in the world to me. So I think we're seeing him kind of bounce between these two worldviews where, yes, he has this pessimistic take on everything, but that's more of a shell or a shield. And really on the inside, he does more and more start to value this relationship with Ellie. He cares about her. And even in the short time he spends with Sam and Henry, I think he grows to care about them. And I think he sees some of himself in Henry, you know, trying to take care of this kid. I think, Tyler, you mentioned that last week. So I think we're just continuing to see more and more of these layers from Joel being peeled back, but it's subtle. And there is still that, you know, pessimism, Brian, you're right. But I think we're seeing a bit of both. And I think it's ultimately going to lead to him being a sort of a changed man by the end of this first season.
Certainly. And I think that, you know, that's certainly begun, because even just him offering to Sam and Henry to join them, like,
Yeah,
it's Joel.
Right, yeah.
Joel doesn't trust just strangers in this world. He doesn't bring them along. And if he does, it's a job. Even Ellie was a job. And we see that
Cargo.
they're cargo. Yeah, they're just
yeah.
and it's you know, he can say that all he wants. And you know, Ellie even calls him out for it when he's like, oh, he just says like, oh, absolutely not. No one can come with us. No, you will not. This will be a no. And then, you know, it's like, oh, then he'll end up saying yes, you know, like just like a dog, you know, a kid would say about their dad or something. Like very, you know, it's very cute. And it just speaks to his character. Yeah, it's very subtle. And that's another thing, like the game is very similar where you're, you know, I think they're trying to tell the audiences something about Joel, and they're showing this gradualness, but to the degree, you know, the audiences may have different little slight, like, I think it's he's a little bit here, he's not quite at that point yet, maybe still a little harsh, and that's just his character. He doesn't fully reveal like his actions, and I think that he I didn't think about that, Brian, like you saying that he was thinking about Ellie getting attached to them, but I do think that that's a part of it. I think first and foremost, it's dog eat dog for him. It's just every man, maybe not dog eat dog, but just every man for himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like we you know, I'm a survivor, like you're with me, like this is pointless. Like this is just, we're just getting through this here. So
If it came down to, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a alternate version or universe where Kathy or Kathleen or her name is captures them, and it's like, hey, Joel, we'll let you and Ellie go, but you got to give me Henry and Sam, dog eat dog. Maybe he would. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if he has that in him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, when he talked to Henry about that, and he admitted that to him, I don't think Joel really judged him because of what you're saying. I think he recognized in that moment, I would probably do that.
He didn't have to say it, but you could feel it.
Right.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Absolutely.
And that's when a show is really effective and really good, is when it trusts its audience to be smart and to understand the messaging that they're ushering in. We don't need you to spell it out for us. We can interpret these things without, your expository help. And yeah, it's just a really well-written show all around.
He was going to kill. I mean, when Henry and Sam were there right away, I mean, he didn't know them. Joel kills people when he needs to, but he was ready to take him out. No problem. He didn't care that Sam's, kid. He's got a gun pointed at him. Joel's a survivor. He would have done it. No problem. He wouldn't have liked it. He didn't want to kill that guy in the watchtower, right? Like he did say, he's like, please don't, please, like just put it down. He didn't want to kill that guy.
And I'll say this too. I think that there's clearly a part of Henry that sees something in Joel that he wishes he was. Like, I think he sees him as a survivor and a killer when he needs to be a killer. And he recognizes that he is not that. And in that moment, when Henry does shoot Sam, I think there's probably a recognition from him that's like, this is what Joel would do because it's what has to be done. And so he does what has to be done. And he can't handle it, which I don't blame him for. He just killed his own little brother. But I think there is something to that. I think he had a moment where he looked at Joel and then he made that snap decision because he recognized, like, I see in this guy what I wish I could have been this whole time to get me and my brother out of Kansas City. And he does the hard thing. But it's too much. It's too much for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you mentioned The Walking Dead, the game, but I know this gets some comparisons to the show a little bit, as far as, especially when we were going into like the first episode. And it is amazing, like for those who are watching this and have watched that, I watched half of that show. They are so different. Like they just are so different. I really don't even think they're the same at all. Like as far as the show, they're just so dead. Like the story they're trying to tell, the characters, like, it's not to shit on like The Walking Dead, but
go ahead.
This one's.
I'm talking about the game, the Telltale
I know you're
game,
talking about
which
the
is
game.
critically acclaimed.
The game is really acclaimed, but the show is just so like the show would have never introduced like new characters and like killed them all from the first like episode that you meet them. Like that show's all about like building the cast, like making this huge cast and this characters, and it's doing something just very different than this. Like it's just so different.
Yeah, I mean that I only watched a couple episodes of The Walking Dead and I couldn't keep going. I mean it was just very pulpy. It was for a different audience than me. But I mean this show is bringing prestige TV to the zombie genre, and I'm so glad because it's like, why not? Like, why couldn't a zombie story? And I know we've talked about this. They're not zombies. They're infected. But from the outside, it's a zombie story. Why can't a zombie story be given the prestige treatment? I mean, obviously that the question is being answered now. It can. This show is excellent. And so, it makes you think, like, what other things that are normally regarded as fantasy or genre, what are some other examples of those types of stories that could be adapted by an HBO and given that prestige treatment? I mean, we saw it with Game of Thrones. That's what Game of Thrones was. They took a fantasy series that they, other people probably viewed as niche, and they told a very human story with it on a big scale with a huge budget, and it worked. And this is kind of similar in a way. And so I like it anytime, a genre idea, sci-fi, fantasy, post-apocalyptic zombie stuff, like any of that, anytime that you can adapt that and do it in a really high quality premiere TV kind of a way, I'm all for that. and so I continue to just love this show.
You should check out Interview with the Vampire. So
Okay.
that's another example there. You know, we had Twilight, Vampire Diaries, all that bullshit. And Interview with the Vampire is the classy, I guess, you know, fine wine version of a vampire show. There's a lot of character development. It's a very compelling story arc, all that. So definitely check that out.
What service is that on, or what network is that on?
AMC.
AMC, because I liked the movie
Yeah.
with Tom Cruise and Kirsten Dunst and stuff. But I'd check out the show. I like vampire stuff. I like Dracula.
It's a slow burn. And it takes place in New Orleans in, I think it was like the 1930s, 40s, 30s. It's right around the Depression, Great Depression. Yeah. One thing I do want to say though is I'm starting to get to this point where I don't trust these characters to live long, like these guest stars. And I don't know if that's a pitfall or what that is. Are they going to change it up? But every time they introduce a new cast of so-and-so, even if they're a big star, like what's his name? Nick Offerman?
Nick Offerman, yeah.
Are they going to off these characters now? Like, are we starting to get to that point where it's like, oh, okay, they're going to be expendable, whatever. Like, I think they need to change that up a little bit. Have a character stick around or don't introduce anybody at all. Because that's where I'm starting to get a little bit impatient with the show.
Yeah. I can't respond to that because I
suppose you can't.
There are characters
coming
that I can't, I don't want to spoil anything. But I'll say this, that I felt the same way at this point in the game. I did. And I was not disappointed. Like that this did not there will be death, but like this did not. It's not like this is not a formula. It's not like next episode you're gonna have a new character, you're gonna get a backstory. They're gonna you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry.
Okay, all right. So there's all purpose to what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess I'll play devil's advocate a little. I don't know that I feel super strongly about this, but like I at the end of the day, it is a dangerous world. So I guess I don't have too much of an issue with characters being introduced and then dying. But I do agree with you. Like you don't want to play the same card too many times. I guess they're playing the same card in different ways. I mean, obviously the Bill and Frank sequence and the Sam and Henry sequence are very different, but you're right. Ultimately, like we're getting introduced to the characters, then they're dying. Then we're getting introduced to characters, and they're dying. You would like to see a little more variety.
I would be content if they just part ways. Yeah, that's fine too. Not everybody has to, I guess, die. You said it's a dangerous world, but people escape. There's a reason why there's still survivors. So why can't they survive just while they're on screen? They could die off screen. That don't matter.
I think I saw the same thing. Like a lot of people were speculating. People who played the games thought they're not going to kill Henry and Sam, which I always thought they were. I'm just like, how they're not going to change that. I mean, if you've experienced that, I don't know why a lot of people thought that, and maybe they just thought like, well, they killed Bill, and Bill lives in the game, so maybe that was the thought. Like, well, they're switching that. I'm just like, no. It's just way too iconic. I mean, it's sad. But it's you can't. To me, like that's just one of the most iconic parts of the game. You can't change that. Bill living is not a big deal. The fact that he dies is not a big deal. It's very different.
But in a way, you have to give the show credit because they are continuing to keep even game players guessing. Even when they do the thing that is directly from the game, people are still second guessing it. And so I think that shows that they're doing a uniquely good job of adapting something. Because it doesn't matter if you play the game or not, you're not too sure what's going to happen next. So
they have been playing with us big time, and I know I mentioned with the Bill one, like everyone's waiting to see how he lives because you're thinking, well, he's going to be fine. So like that was they really played with you with that one. This one, I wouldn't say I never was thinking like, whoa, they may live. I didn't really. I don't think they were really playing with. This one was more straightforward, and of course, a lot more things from the game. As I mentioned as well, Ellie as well with the comic books. In the games, you do find comics, give them to Ellie. She loves comics. I think this was the first episode with that, right?
I think
comic
so.
book.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one with that. Have we also seen any wildlife yet? Not really, right?
In the Bill episode, I'm sure we have.
I think they were
Some
eating
sort-
rabbit. I remember that.
Right.
I don't know if we
Yeah.
saw
Okay.
them shoot
So
it.
nothing. Okay, because you mentioned that you thought at first, maybe Nick said it. You thought it was a bear maybe coming out, but it was the
Yeah.
bloater, right?
I
Okay.
thought maybe. I
Okay.
mean,
So
I
that just made me
think
think. Like, you see, because honestly, like, game and the show, sometimes I'm like, what have we seen? Haven't seen? Okay, so we haven't really seen any like wildlife. Okay. All right.
Well, my question remains that I posed, a few episodes back. Like, can animals become infected? I mean, why not? Like,
Do you want to know the answer to that?
No, I don't want to know. I don't want any spoilers, but it's a valid question. Like, are we going to get infected bears or wolves or eagles? Or, I mean, it could happen, right? Maybe. Don't tell me, but I am wondering about that.
I'm sure they can. It seems like it's a living organism as a host kind of
Right.
situation. I
You
couldn't
would
see
think.
why not. I mean, there's zombie dogs and Resident Evil, so
Yeah, there's
this could
precedent
happen too.
here.
This precedent. Yeah. I won't say. I won't tell you guys. But there
So
is
you
an
do have an answer. Is
Oh,
what
yeah,
you're
I have an
saying. Yeah, you have an
Yeah.
answer. Okay.
They could. I mean, it's something too that I don't know. Maybe they'll
Joel's
change
gonna
it.
he's
I
gonna
don't know.
fight a bear with his shirt off. He's gonna
No, that's high
Well,
quality.
I got to ask Brian. So Brian off camera told us that he wasn't in the beginning. You weren't fully on board with the Ellie actress.
Mm.
You weren't fully on board with her. Joel, I think you were liking Joel, but you felt he was maybe. I think you said he was a little tough compared to the game. Very tough, very tough. And I think I don't know if I agreed or disagreed. I think I kind of felt kind of the same. Like Joel can be tough in times, and he can be soft. But I do think in the game he had a softer voice. Pedro Pascal is certainly more. His expressions, I don't know. He doesn't have the soft side of Joel. I'll say I don't think he brings
Right.
it much. So I see where you're coming from with that. But how do you feel? We're halfway through the show. Where are you at now?
Okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot going through these episodes, and I think since Ellie is such just a iconic video game character, it's kind of hard to deviate from that image. It's like, hey, this is how she's supposed to be. This is how she's supposed to look. And seeing someone else play that role, it's kind of like, I don't know. It could be a little conflicting, I think. Definitely growing on me in terms of, whether I think she's good for the role or not. I don't have any issue with how she acts as a character. I think either one of you two, I'm not too sure who it was, but really broke it down to me as this is a person who grew up. This is a kid who grew up to be dog eat dog. This is a person who grew up in an apocalypse. They're not going to have the same mannerisms as someone who's seen what a functioning society was back in the day. So her attitude and even her, her jokes are very juvenile. That's just kind of how it's supposed to be. But I do agree. I think the actress herself, Bella Ramsey, is her name? She's pulling it off very well. And I just have to separate the two crafts of The Last of Us. This is the Ellie version in the video game. It's the Ellie version in the show. So I think everyone's doing a fantastic job. I'm satisfied. But I'm still just
other than Kathleen.
Other than Charlie Sheen's 2.5 Men neighbor.
That's right.
Ridiculous.
I remember her being in that. A couple other things. I mean, yeah, come on. It sounds like we all agree. Like the Kathleen character should have been altered in some way or basically cut. Like it just didn't really work. Didn't really go anywhere. But oh well, we're moving.
Change up her act. She should have really tried a little bit. I think she was just trying to go more psychological, and it just didn't really work.
It just came off as someone who snapped, and they were like a kindergarten teacher or something. It's like she has this sweet tone, but then she's like, "All right, that's it, time out." It's like, what's going on with this?
I wanted her to die for maybe the wrong reasons. Like I wanted her to die because she was like annoying me. Like
exactly,
I mean, I also like hate her. Like as she's not a character I want to see. Like I want to see Joel kill her, but I'm also like no. Like if she were to stick around, let's say they kept this character around till episode 8. I mean, that would hurt the show. I think that would hurt the show. So it's really good that she's gone.
She's standing in her childhood bedroom. She's like, "Do you ever?" That was the only time I ever like looked down at my phone. I was like, "What is she talking about?" Like, you ever go back to your childhood bedroom? And the other guy's just like, it's like 200 miles away. No. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Nothing about what's happening is making me care. Can we go back to Joel and Ellie, who I like and want to spend
What's
time with?
crazy is like her henchman guy, like I was fine with him. Like I no problems. Like, not to say he was like a fantastic actor, but like he was doing the role fine. Like he was just, I think
Right.
there could have been a
And
little more maybe with him, maybe even like he was fine. He was
He
good.
was believable as someone that would have survived in this horrific hellscape of a world, and she was not. And there's going to be lots of dialogue on the internet about how that is sexist, but it's not, because, like we said in the last reaction, Tyler, compare her to the Tess character. When you meet Tess, you believe right away that this person is tough, seasoned, experienced, knows how to survive in this world. You believe it right away. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter that she's a woman or a man. It doesn't matter. What matters,
Marlene as well. Let's say Marlene as
Marlene,
well.
yeah.
another good example. What matters is the performance. What matters is that the right performer was chosen. The writing was good too, but the writing wasn't necessarily the problem with this Kathleen character. It was the line delivery.
Delivery.
It was the casting.
Yeah, because I liked her reason. I liked that backstory with her. I thought it was fair. It was fine. But yeah, that wasn't good. I should also shout out to the little soccer shootout scene. Another scene pulled right from the game. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's pulled right from the game, and in the game, like you're walking through the tunnels and you're escorting Henry, Sam, and Ellie, and they just go off. They see it. They just go off and play. And as you're walking, you smile. I remember the feeling like I can't help but just smile. This is just fun to just watch them play. Like I felt like Joel, just like, oh, this is nice. Just watch them like be kids. And I think
It's
that
cool.
Henry
It's
in the
cool.
game was a bit more aggressive towards Joel, trying to like get Joel to like understand, like, and just be like laid back more, like hey, kids being kids, right? Like he was kind of more like, I felt like Nick, you said you felt it was more Henry in the show, kind of idolizing Joel a little bit, which I think that was more done more so here than in the game, which I like both actually. I don't know if I prefer one, but there it definitely always felt like Henry was trying to peel back Joel more, and Joel was kind of listening, actually. He was allowing, his shell to be pulled back a little bit. But we didn't get that as much here, but still
Did
really
you guys
good.
watch? Did you guys watch the next week on Last of Us little
Did
preview?
it. Let's hear it though. What was it?
Well, I did. I can't help it.
I didn't. I don't want to spoil anything, so I
Oh,
don't
maybe
watch
don't
things.
say it then. Maybe don't say
No,
it.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. For
there's
the
no
sake of content, let's hear it.
there's no spoilers. I mean, I don't necessarily know that the episode opens with this, but at some point in the episode, they clearly get to Wyoming, and Tommy's there, and so Joel and Tommy are reunited. And there's a couple of new characters that seem to be introduced. That one woman who's having a conversation with Ellie, talking to her about who she can trust. So it would seem that this one of the upcoming directions the show's going to take is they're going to maybe try to sow some seeds of doubt between Ellie and Joel, which I get that as an angle. There's clearly still some weird history between Tommy and Joel. Maybe this is more of a Brian question because you've not played the full game. Tyler has, but I'd be curious what your predictions are for the next episode. I might have one or two, but what do you think is going to happen next?
There's definitely some kind of mistrust. I don't think it's going to be a warm welcome of any kind. I don't think Tommy will be particularly happy to see Joel. Might be doing some stuff that Joel was unaware of. So my prediction is just that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be this big family reunion of some sort. I think he's wrapped up in some situations that he doesn't want Joel to know about, and Joel's going to figure it out. And he's like, "Why are you even here, man? Like I'm all the way over in Wyoming for a reason. I was never in trouble. You created this notion that I was, and I don't want you here." That's kind of my prediction.
Do you think they're going to work it out? Do you think they'll work it out, though, in the long run? Do you not think so?
How long is the season?
9 episodes? We got
9 episodes?
4 more. We got 4 more episodes. 6, 7, 8,
4
9.
more? Yeah, sure. They'll work it out.
You think so?
There's
You think they'll
plenty
work
of
it
time.
out?
Yeah.
Do you
And then-
think he'll join the crew with Joel and Ellie? You think that it'll go that far?
No, he's gonna die. That's just how it works. Maybe 2 episodes. They'll give him an extra episode. He's gonna die. That's it. And he's gonna be like, I don't know, te quiero, Joel.
Yeah.
I love you. And then he's gonna die. You know what I mean? After all the I don't know, meat-spirited conversations that they had, he's gonna be like, I love you deep down, but I hate you. And then that's it. So I don't think he's gonna live.
A Tommy death would not shock me.
Yeah.
My big curiosity is like the logistics of explaining that Ellie is bit but immune, and then what happens next. Like, we don't necessarily know that this place in Wyoming is going to have any people there who know what to do with that information. Are there going to be any epidemiologists or, in this Wyoming town? Like, probably not. So that's my big mystery is like, we've got this information. Ellie's immune. Okay. What do we do with this? Like, so I'll be very curious how that's going to play out. And I really hope that we get, more flashbacks to the, before the outbreak. Cause I really like those in episodes, obviously episode 1, but episode 2 as well. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. And that could maybe help to be a connector between, pre-outbreak and like, what are we going to do with Ellie's DNA, her blood? That'll be interesting.
Or even what's his name again? His brother? Tommy. Or even with Tommy and Joel, their interactions when they were in Boston. I wouldn't mind something like that too.
Yeah,
To kind of give a little substance with their relationship after the apocalypse and after Sarah died and how that went.
Yeah, I'd like to see that because that's something we don't get in the game. We just like this, you don't see Tommy again until this moment. And it did always kind of feel like, wow, 20 years, like, we just don't see these two. We don't see it. We hear a lot about it, but I would like to see it. I will predict, unfortunately, that I don't think we're going to see any more pre-infected. I don't think so at this point. I don't think so. I don't know what story purposes it would serve other than, maybe like what you said, maybe if they're going to relate it to like Ellie a little bit, but even Ellie, we're going to get some Ellie stuff. We will get that. But Ellie was born after the infection. So even if we get her past, it's not going to be that far away. We're not going to see her as a baby. I'll tell you that. But it's not, I don't know. I don't think we will. I don't think we will. I'd love to, though. I'd love to be wrong.
Guess we'll see.
We'll see.
Anything
Do we have anything else? I was going to say anything else before, I don't know if there's any other predictions, but of course, I think we should do final verdicts here for sure.
I think we should rank. We should see where this ranks among the episodes.
Oof. I already know what all right, I'll go first. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Okay. I think this was so good that the Kathleen character and the issues I had with her and all that, it didn't even matter. It really didn't matter. This episode was perfect. It was just exactly what I want in this show. A lot of of course, I'm big grin during all these scenes that are pulled from the show or from the game. But the narrative, Henry and Sam, the characterization of them was done better than I thought it could be done. Because that's something that's dicey. You're introducing this new character and, on paper, you say, well, what's the point of this character? Like, this show was able to convince me and many others that they're important and to care about them. The ending was just jaw dropping. The action was amazing. We got more from Joel and Ellie. It's great for me. It's if I was really being a critic, I'd probably have to say, well, 9 because of Kathleen. But you know what? Fuck, I don't care about Kathleen. I'm not letting her, bring my score down. I think this one's a 10. And for me, it's up. It's man, I don't know. Is it better than the Bill one? I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I don't know. We're talking It's so hard. I'd have to think about it where I'd rank it, but it is certainly amongst the best for me are, I think, episodes 3, 4, and 5. I think.
What about
I
episode 1?
I mean, episode 1 is really, really fantastic, but I do think that there is some long pieces of exposition, especially with that time jump. And look, it needs to happen. It needs to happen, but if I'm rewatching episode 1, I am certainly more excited to rewatch the opening of episode 1. Whereas 3, 4, 5, I'm in it for the entirety of 3, 4, 5. So I don't know. I think those are my top 3, but we'll pass the torch.
Well, I'll be that critic and say I can't give it a 10 because I got to knock half a point off and give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Kathleen?
Because of Kathleen. I mean, ultimately, we were trudging with Kathleen on a long, boring walk through a pile of shit to nowhere. Like, you got to knock off a half a point. But, despite that, it's still an excellent episode of television. I mean, where would I rank it? It's tough. I feel like I like episode 1 maybe a little more than you, Tyler. I think that, yeah, that time jump was jarring. We talked about that, but there's still a lot of really cool world building there. There's still some really good character introductions there in episode 1. Episode 3, it's really tough to compare episode 3 to the rest. I mean, it's its own thing. It exists in this universe, and Joel and Tess are in it and all that, but like it's like this epic romance caught up in everything else. But if I have to pick, I guess I would say that episode 1 and 3 are 10s, and I think this episode was a 9.5, so it's in third place. But that tells you how damn good this show is.
Like
when an episode like this is your third favorite of the season of 5 episodes. I mean, geez, like what a flippin' show. So that's where it ranks for me.
Brian?
Yeah, I don't want to be too redundant. You guys covered a lot of great points, obviously. And I was looking at a 9.5 as well, just because of Kathleen. And it could have been a 10. It could have been, but yeah, she kind of brought it down half a point, which is still great, 9.5 out of 10. And I do like the opening sequence of the first episode. That's probably my favorite part. The only part I really would want to rewatch if I had to, choose from first episode. But I got to say, this is definitely my favorite. It packed a punch. It had comedy. We were able to see a few character arcs in Ellie and Joel. And we got to know Henry and Sam, these great characters in this world, even if it was for a short time. And I loved it. And Kathleen getting killed was just icing on the cake there. I will say one prediction, though.
Yes.
I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl.
Go Birds.
I think so too. I do think so too. But did I hear you say this is your favorite episode of the whole series so far? Okay.
Yes. So far. I actually really, really liked it.
Yeah.
Despite the little,
I think for me too, like why these 3, 4, and 5 are my favorites. I mean, 3 for its own reason, but 4 and 5 are like the meat and potatoes of what the show is. Like it's the meat and potatoes, and I think I was moved just so much by that ending here. Just, for me, it's just, but hey, we're talking, we're 9.5 or 10 or, like, man, what a freaking show. We're like,
we're trashing this show. Yeah.
It's just that good. I mean, the worst to me, episode 2, and, is like an 8. It's like the worst, or 7, maybe. Like, I don't know. Episode 2 was the weakest, I think, for sure. But
all right.
I don't know. I think we're good. So, thanks for those who are watching on the playback. We will be back in a little while. We got a little long wait. We had this one a little early. So they even reminded you as soon as this episode aired, it said like the next one will be February 19th. I'm thinking 9 days from now. So we got a while. We'll be back on the 19th and we will do that episode then. Until then, go Eagles. If they win, we're here. If they lose, done. We're not doing this anymore.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding.
You really
release the fungi.
Go Birds.
Channel will be done, and the channel that Nick will be bringing up will just not even start.
Wow.
Which
Wow.
His link is in the description of my channel, or of this video, description of this video. And if you're watching, he may not have a video up yet, but give us subscribe so when he gets his first video, you just have it ready. And he'll be doing talking about like some old movies with some friends, and you'll kind of see what that is. If you enjoy this, you would enjoy that.
Give me a minute here. I'm in grad school. I don't have a lot of time, but yeah. Anyway, go Birds. Go down by the water and have some hoagies. Go Birds. That's my
Go Birds.
my Philly character.
Eagles.
All right, guys.